and welcome to All People's Church Unitarian Universalist. My name is Rain Brady, and I will be your co-celebrant for this morning's service. Our Sunday service is a shared time of worship for all present as we gather for music, spoken words, a time of reflection and inspiration as a religious community. Let us come together in a spirit of compassion and respect for ourselves and others attending this service. If you're a visitor today and you haven't signed in, please do. There's a visitor's table by the front door, and signing in will give us the opportunity to acknowledge your visit and place you on a mailing list to receive our weekly emails and monthly newsletter. In our pulpit today is Mary Kerwin, who is standing in for Lori King Nelson, who, and along with her family, is suffering from COVID. Mary will be sharing a sermon with us this morning from Mary Harrington, who has presented it at the General Assembly in 2009. Before we continue with our service, please note these reminders and announcements. There are sign-up sheets on the helping out table in the foyer. Amongst other things, we need volunteers for Children's RE, the grounds, office, kitchen, and of course, ushers and greeters. Help us out and put a little sweat equity into your church. And please, if we will have our lovely Jo Burnham come up, she's gonna have another announcement for us.
Thank you, Ray, and thank you for all you do. Well, good morning. Usually when I'm up here, you guys expect me to beg you for money. Well, I'm not doing that today. This is not a day for asking. This is a day of gratitude. Because of your generosity last month, we collected almost $200 for Don't Forget to Feed Me. Thank you so much. I can't begin to tell you what a difference you guys make in the lives of pet owners in Fort Worth. Even the homeless who have dogs are benefiting from your kindness in giving. Meals on Wheels takes dog and cat food to the elderly and other shut-ins because of people like you. Little children don't have to see their children or their beloved pets go away. People don't feel like they have the right to just dump their animals because they can't feed them on the streets of Fort Worth. Thanks to Colleen Brewer and Michael Zepeda for making sure that Eastside Ministries was supplied with food these past months since the fire at Eastside Ministries. Debbie and her crew at Don't Forget to Feed Me will be taking over now. But Colleen and Michael made sure that our pantry did not go without. Thanks to both of you so very much. I just really wanted all of you to know how grateful everyone is and let you know how much you are appreciated. Thank you from my heart.
And I believe that concludes our announcements for this morning. Misha? I believe that concludes our announcements for this morning.
Thank you, Misha. Welcome to this place of peace. May we find some moments of quiet contemplation. Welcome to this place of celebration. May our hearts soar with gratitude for the gift of life. Welcome to this place of sacred love. May we gently hold all that is broken here. Welcome to this place of inquiry. Here, may we be challenged to open our minds and hearts ever wider. Come into this place of community. May we together draw the circle of love and justice ever wide. Welcome to this sacred place. Come, let us worship, celebrate, grieve, and love together.
We now invite you to rise in body or spirit for the chalice lighting, opening hymn, and spoken affirmation. Our chalice lighting words this week are from Reverend Scott Taylor. We light this chalice to remember that it is good to make space for breath, that work is not the measure of worthiness, that filling one's life to the brim leaves no room for grace and surprise to slip in. Welcome, friends. Let us make our space and to be renewed. Our opening hymn is our hymn of the month for June, 368. Now let us sing in the gray hymnal. And now for our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into creation.
With creation.
Thus do we covenant with one another. The young and young at heart are now invited to come forward for our time for all ages here at the front of the chancel. It's good to see you guys. So the spotlight's kind of on you today. Hate to be the bearer of good news. So, I want you to imagine you have a favorite toy or game that you love to play. And you spend hours and hours and hours playing with that and enjoying it, right? But then mom has to say, it's time to clean up, or it's time to go get ready, it's time to eat, it's time to stop playing. And that makes you feel really frustrated, right? It does. And you wish you had more time playing with it because it makes you happy. I understand completely. When we go through life and when we look at our lives, it's kind of like looking at our favorite game or toy. We have so many wonderful moments with our families and friends, exploring the world and learning things. Each moment is special, and sometimes it feels like we never have enough time to do the things we love. It may seem like if we stop for 15 minutes to look at that email, if we stop for 10 minutes to put down our Barbies, to go put our shoes on to go outside to play, it feels like eternity. And sometimes we take for granted the beauty in our lives. So if we take this time, even the smallest things, the most mundane things, and turn it into things you enjoy, like having that time with your family, having that time with your friends, discovering new things. Every day is an opportunity to create happy memories and share the love and kindness with others. So let's remember to make the most of each day, be thankful and present in the time that we have, and use it to spread kindness, show goodness in the world, and make others happy. Even though a lifetime might not seem long enough, each moment we have is a precious joy. Thank you for coming and listening. Shall we sing her out, guys?
Misha. Misha.
The offering that we take each Sunday, it's not just a stale habit. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and to our people. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism and our own spiritual values within beyond our congregation as tools to empower our mission. Each Sunday, we take half of the non-dedicated cash offering that is received and share it with a local organization whose values and goals reflect our own. This quarter, we will be supporting the Texas UU Justice Ministry, a statewide justice ministry that raises the voices of Unitarian Universalist values in the public arena and seeks to have those values enacted into legislation and public policy. Please give generously. If you prefer, the donations can also be made by using the QR code on the back of the order of service. The gifts of the congregation will be most gratefully received. Will the ushers please come forward? Thank you, Misha. We gather as a house of stories, many stories, woven fine. As we listen to the tales of those who have gone before, the way in front of us becomes more clear. As we make space for voices long silenced, all of us become more free. As we hear the accounts of those who made it through the dark, courage reigns on each and every one. These stories, friends, I need yours as you need mine. This is how we become whole. Yes, we gather as a house of many stories. Come again. Let us listen once again. Each week, there's a journal outside the entrance to the sanctuary where you can write a message of memory or hope before the service. We honor these messages by lighting 3 candles next to our chalice. Also, at any time during our service, you are welcome to come forward and light a candle in our meditation center here at the side of the chancel. In our Book of Memory and Hope this morning, we have been asked to remember that our former DRE, Sarah Burrell Harrop, was honored at the Texas UU Justice Ministry at their year-end meeting last week. Sarah has completed a very successful 2-year intern ministry, and she plans to continue on as organizer for the rest of the year. Sarah will be filling our pulpit next Sunday with a message about the changes to Article 2 of the UUA Study Commission. We are asked to keep Sherry's husband and her family in mind and heart as they are currently helping her mother with stage 4 cancer at this time, and to pray for the health and healing for the members of our congregation. We pause at this time to hold and honor the sorrows and celebrations amongst us, including those deeply felt but left here unspoken. Let us pause for a moment of silent meditation, and Misha will lift our hearts with music. Hymn 295, Sing Out Praises for the Journey. And that is also in the Great Hymnal.
Okay. It's okay. We'll now pause at this time to hold and to honor the sorrows and the celebrations among us, including those deeply felt but left here unspoken. Let us pause for a moment of silent meditation, and then Misha will lift our hearts with music. Our worship committee keeps a file of what we call emergency sermons in the event that we have a situation like today when our minister is unable to be here with us. I was lucky enough to be at the General Assembly in Salt Lake City in 2009 when I heard the Reverend Mary Harrington deliver the sermon that I'm about to give to you today. It's entitled, "A Lifetime Isn't Long Enough." Tell me, the poet insists, what will engage you? What does it take to get your attention? The mystics of all time have understood that there is something in our nature that can pull us toward dull routine and habit, leading to numbness, forgetfulness, zoning out. The Bible frequently refers to us as sheep. And having personally raised sheep, I assure you this is not a compliment. We can easily become so caught up with the busyness, jobs, homework, errands, meetings, that we tune out what really matters in our lives. For centuries, religious leaders, poets, and musicians, artists of every stripe, have been doing handsprings to get our attention and help us reawake to life at its heights and its depths. The Sufis, in particular, will do almost anything to help people wake up. They believe some of the greatest sins are sloth and spiritual lethargy. Sufism is, of course, the mystical branch of Islam, but it can also be understood more widely. Sufis believe that we need special teachers to call us back to our true selves, and that these teachers can appear in any culture, in any time, and in any religious tradition. The Sufi poet Rumi is anything but subtle. Come, take a pickaxe and break apart your stony self. Batter down the door, unstop the wine jar, smash the jug, and come to the river. Sometimes I think it would take a pickaxe to get my attention. Whenever I don't spend enough time outside, in the woods or at a beach, I become distracted and scattered. And what would life be without music and friends to share it with? How could you forget music? But when I am on automatic pilot, just going through the motions, I can forget a lot of wonderful and important things, even things that bring me joy. I know I am not alone in this, small comfort though that may be. People seem more wound up or more run down these days, more spiritually and emotionally disconnected either way. There are all the worries in our personal lives and so much in our world that is going wrong, so much that cries out for our clear seeing, our justice seeking, and our deep attention. Yet as poet, activist, and Trappist monk Thomas Merton warns, there is a pervasive form of contemporary violence, and that is activism and overwork. To allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, that is to succumb to violence. The frenzy of our activism neutralizes our work for peace. It destroys our own inner capacity for peace because it kills the root of the inner wisdom which makes work fruitful. I'm not saying that we have to choose, because we can't choose, between having a rich inner life and a fierce commitment to justice. To be meaningful, each must be grounded in the strength of the other. But I think you sometimes equate taking time for rest and reflection with the sin of self-indulgence. Not long ago, a gifted, passionate colleague asked me to meet with him because he felt completely overwhelmed by all that he had on his plate. He just didn't know where to start or how to find even 5 minutes of downtime to relax, let alone meditate or pray. It took me almost an hour to get through his anxiety over so many things on his to-do list, through his despair that there could be any relief, through the resistance and the yes buts to every small suggestion. I wish I had had a pickaxe. What he had forgotten, what I sometimes forget, is that having an inner life is not a luxury. It is not a recreational option. It is a necessity. It is, in fact, a moral and spiritual imperative. No matter how many compelling family, school, or work responsibilities we may have, this is, in fact, our greatest responsibility. To be awake to the reality Mary Oliver reminds us of, that even a lifetime isn't long enough for the beauty of the world. You are part of the beauty of this world, full of rubies, exquisite jewels without price, which no one will ever enjoy, not even you, if they stay locked inside. There is a communal responsibility to share your treasure with others. It is a pressing responsibility of the greatest magnitude. It is holy work. To risk the obvious, if you take the word responsibility apart, it literally means the ability to respond. Responsibility. What are we spiritually responsible for? Like the poet's mother, we often carry our lives, our inner riches, like they were heavier than iron, lugging them from room to room, as if they were burdens rather than our unique and extraordinary selves. Yet what happens when we smash the jug and come to the river? What happens when we consider all the creation is calling us to? For me, poetry is often a kind of spiritual pickaxe that breaks me open, shakes me up, and rearranges my priorities. So in honor of the poets like my son, Sam, and other great teachers, I'd like to suggest 7 kinds of being responsible. One is to remember that we have a body and that it is good. It is so good, in fact, that even the Spirit, says Mary Oliver, likes to dress up like us. 10 fingers, 10 toes, shoulders, and all the rest. We have all of these ways to touch and connect and experience the world. Even an ant knows that. Its tongue is perfectly designed to draw in and taste all that sweetness. We were given at least 5 senses so we can taste and see and listen and dance, make love and sing. I was diagnosed with a very serious illness, with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, 3 years ago. As you can imagine, finding out I had this illness was devastating. Almost overnight, I lost my sense of having a future and also a lot of my identity. The ways I knew myself as an independent person, self-sufficient, healthy, and in charge of myself. I was in a complete state of shock, disoriented, terrified, and heartbroken, especially for my husband and my children. I have found it takes vigilance, focusing in the moment and what I care about and love the most, to keep this illness from defeating my spirit, taking me over, including my truest, deepest self. To keep realizing, as colleague Mark Bellatini reminds me, Mary, you are not your diagnosis. It's still hard to talk about, but this is what I know for sure. We are so lucky. Somehow we got here, each of us sitting here today. Somehow we got a body. We got to have a life. We got to have a human life and to be alive. How amazing that we are here right now, that there is a here. As Meister Eckhart, the 13th century Christian mystic, wrote, if the only prayer you say in your entire life is thank you, that would suffice. Feeling and expressing gratitude is a second spiritual responsibility. It would even, Eckhart says, be enough. In his cosmology, that's all it would take to make God happy. But when the water in our jug is low and brackish, we do not have even the trim or feistiness of a moth to offer this prayer of gratitude in a meaningful way. We are not capable of fulfilling that responsibility. Thank you. Then there are those hummingbirds. There are those squirrels raiding the bird feeder. There are those egrets in the ditch. We are supposed to notice these things. Stare hard, the poet insists. This is an enormous and glorious responsibility. I don't regret any of those times I was late because I found a bird or a small animal that was injured and drove it to the wild animal rescue. I don't regret my ruined pantyhose and shoes from chasing a hobbling blue jay through a field of nettles until I got it into a shoebox, until I literally couldn't do any more. This was one of my most cherished, self-chosen responsibilities. At one time, we had baby bottles for every size of creature, from a little bunny to a pushy lamb. Birds are especially fragile and often didn't make it, but every once in a while there was the thrill of holding that tiny heartbeat between my hands and then watching it fly away. Fourth, we have the capacity for perspective, to see all around us that nothing lasts. We are able to be aware of our mortality and fragility in ways that we humans imagine no other creatures can. We can perceive how all things are interrelated, how we are part of everything. Marty and I have gone to Maine in the summer for 11 years now, and until recently I would set out in our red canoe very late at night, drifting in Seal Cove. The water was completely still. So still I hardly needed a paddle. The air was still too, and the warm and heavy with the scent of the sea. It was very, very dark, and you could hear the fish jumping and the seals barking and splashing. High above, the entire night sky was so blanketed with stars, there was almost no room for the sky part. It was an experience of timelessness and peace that completely enveloped me. And reflected in the water all around me were those same millions of stars, sparkling on the surface. I felt so small, absolutely alone and solitary, and yet part of something ancient and immense. You can't stay in those wild places forever, but you can go to them when you have the chance. And you can salt your mind and your heart with that memory so that when you need to focus on something beautiful and strong, those times will come to you and be a mercy and a balm. Another responsibility we have is to acknowledge the past, find healing for our spirits, and then walk away. Refuse to be complicit with those forces that hold us back. Keep on hurting us through memory and grievance. Sweep the floor clean, then close the door. Don't take that iron thing with you. This is your life. You are responsible. There is too much beauty for even a lifetime of noticing and wonderment. All of these riches have been entrusted to your senses for the little time that you will be among us. I know it's not easy to let go and move on. Relationships with other people are the hardest part of living, and I don't think after 57 years that it's gotten any easier. We are all hopelessly eccentric, quirky, distinctive, particular. You can't really figure someone else out, no matter how hard you try. And just when you think you've gotten it right, things change. When I am over the top with frustration, fury, or despair, I ask myself this one question when I can remember. What is the most loving thing that I can do right now? It's difficult to think to do this. It's sometimes infuriating to contemplate. The answers don't always come right away or even make sense. But when I have remembered and when I have acted on love in the present moment, no matter what, I have never been sorry. Another charge we have as loving souls is to claim and experience our own grief, the losses of our lives, to lean into them rather than push them away, to be their kith and kin like a sister and brother. For losses will surely come, and their impact will surely remain, and they belong to us. We are responsible to make a home for them inside ourselves, not give over the whole house, but as poet Denise Levertov puts it, to invite our grief in like a dog that has been hanging around the back porch. Give this faithful, lingering dog of your grief a mat on the kitchen floor and her own water dish, his rightful place in your life's story. It's also vitally important to care for our own people and to bury our own dead, to sit with and comfort and companion someone who is very ill, to kiss them goodbye at the end, to wash and dress their body, to speak or sing at their memorial service if you can, to run your fingers through their ashes, to pick up a lump of earth and crumble it gingerly upon their grave, This used to happen all the time, you know. We had no choice, we humans. Now everything can be handled by others, by professionals, and sometimes this is either unavoidable or desirable. But never will I forget lowering a handful of my mother's ashes into the blue-green waters of Lake Michigan, our common spiritual home, and watching as they turned silver and luminous and swelled into a cloud of such breathtaking beauty that I knew we had given her back to life, where she came from forever. The seventh responsibility, solitude, rest, and Sabbath time, these are what make it possible to be responsible at all, for anything that matters. Whatever brings us alive, nourishes us, be it art, beauty, poetry, music, good cooking, watching Beatles, feeling the wind. We don't just get to take time for these things because they are essential. We're fortunate as Unitarian Universalists that there are more and more opportunities for us to develop our own unique spiritual practices. One of these is a retreat center in upstate New York, where I went 5 or 6 years ago. I arrived on the opening night feeling wrung out and ready for a change of scene. On that first morning when I woke up in the old farmhouse where we were staying, I gathered my things and headed for the shower. It was a chilly morning and the hot water streaming down my back felt stinging good. I stayed there a long time warming up. I have some of my best thoughts in the shower, epiphanies even. This particular time, I was keenly aware of missing my beloved friend Elizabeth, who had died not long before. I thought how much she would have enjoyed this particular retreat because she was a poet, and so was one of our leaders. Then I just felt so sad, thinking about how she would never be going to another retreat of any kind, or feeling hot water on her skin, or waking up in a farmhouse. When I stepped out of the shower, I saw the huge fluffy towel folded so neatly and my favorite robe draped over a chair waiting for me. For some reason, seeing these made me unspeakably happy. I thought how someday I won't be here either. A time will come when I will never take another shower, but I could so vividly picture my beautiful daughter, Julia, putting on her favorite robe, and then maybe my granddaughter, and hopefully a long line of others after that. And at that very moment, I thought, it's just life. It's just life. Inside that little temple, I felt so clearly less myself than part of everything. My whole life, I had been part of the liberal church. To put it in terms of plants or cars, I'm a 5th generation UU hybrid. Everyone here will have their own religious understandings and spiritual practices, those jewels you carry in your mind and heart. The faith I was raised with came to me from people like you who are ministers, my beloved colleagues, and also those of you who are Sunday school teachers and youth advisors, older, wiser friends, and from my childhood and youth group, friends growing up. Thank you with all my heart. This is the essence of what I internalized from my religious upbringing. Everything and everyone is connected. We are responsible to each other. It's very important to be a good person. It's not always possible, but that should never stop us from trying. Curiosity, courage, kindness, and humility create a life of both integrity and joy. Suffering and grief can happen to anyone and are not deserved. Healing is always possible. There are countless ways to experience the holy and the sacred. Life on earth is astounding, beautiful, and enough. We are in good hands. Love underlies everything. When all is said and done, it's a vast and endless mystery. As a minister, I have learned that someone's faith is tested most when faced with trauma or tragedy. I can speak only for myself, but as I have struggled with this illness, and as I have tried to see clearly the injustice in our world and bear witness and take action together with people like you, this faith has held up, held me, held together. It has been enough, and as Buddhists like to say, enough is a feast. I pray this is so for you too. When loneliness comes stalking, go to the fields. Live with the beetle and the wind. This is an enormous, glorious responsibility. This is persistent, holy, and transforming work. Amen. Please now join in singing our closing hymn, number 139, Wonders Still the World Shall Witness.
Chalice extinguishment words today are by Dr. Rebecca Savage. As we come to the end of service, may you depart from our time together, buoyed by the spirit of life, delighted by the warmth of gathering, renewed in soul and mind. As we extinguish the flame of our chalice, may its lingering spark be carried in your heart until we are together again.
Our service today has been in part in memory of Reverend Mary Harrington, who died in October of 2010, 16 months after her sermon at the General Assembly. We also extend healing thoughts to Lori King Nelson and her family for a speedy recovery. We end our gathering with gratitude for camaraderie, shared wisdom, goodwill, and support that we extend to each other within this community. The service has ended. We invite all to join us at this time for coffee and conversation in the library directly behind the sanctuary.